Good morning, guys. The video for today, this is an awkward one for me. I don't know how to make this video, but what I want to talk about today is the incident that happened to me last Sunday at the time of this recording. It was on April the 30th, 2023, when I was attacked by two dogs. If you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, you'll be aware of what happened. Here's a couple pictures from the incident. I have been off work since that happened. I'm going back to work on Sunday, exactly 1 week after the incident happened. So I got 4 days off work out of this incident. And I want to talk about it because there's a lot to this that I think, well, for one, I think people are curious about how this happened. They'd like to hear my story. But there's also a lot to this kind of process and what you go through when something like this happens that I don't think people are aware of. And like, from my perspective, the most frustrating part about this whole incident, it was not necessarily the pain of the dogs biting me or the trauma of having to shoot a couple of dogs. It's like all of the administrative stuff. It's just such a pain in the ass. So I don't know. I'm going to kind of go through everything as I go through the video. Hopefully I can do this in a way that is entertaining, or at least in a way that you guys find interesting. I know that my core viewers are going to be interested in this. I don't know if the rest of the general population cares, but regardless of the fact, on April the 30th, 2023, it was just a normal day at work for me. It was a little bit chilly that day. I was wearing a long sleeve shirt. I think it was like 36 degrees in the morning. It was a relatively slow day. I remember I drove around and did some patrolling and stuff. The dog bite actually happened at about 11:20 in the morning. I hadn't really answered very many calls that day. I think right off the jump, when I loaded up into my car, I had a couple of kind of BS runs that were holding from the night before that I had to clear up quickly. I went and got my coffee. I sat in a parking lot and I drank my coffee, did some administrative paperwork and things. And it was kind of funny. It was, believe it or not, it was a fun morning. This one parking lot that I went and sat in, there's a business owner there who has had multiple vehicles vandalized over the last couple of years. I've developed a relationship with him. He knows my name. I don't have his number. I had the previous guy's number. It doesn't matter. But I was sitting in this parking lot and he came out to talk to me. He brought his son over to talk to me. So I was out there with his son. I opened up the cruiser. I opened up the front and the back, and I let his kid sit in the seat and play with the sirens and everything. Gave him a coin, gave him some stickers, some stuff like that. And then this particular businessman does a lot of work with Japanese businesses. And it just so happened that on this day, he had some Japanese business partners coming to visit him, and they arrived while I was giving his son a walk around the cruiser. So I kind of gave them a little walk around the cruiser. I posed for pictures. I gave them a coin. I don't have any down here, but I've got like a coin that I made for my YouTube channel. Gave a couple of them to those guys, gave them some stickers, talked to their kids, showed them how my taser worked, all that kind of like, you get to meet a cop experience, and they really enjoyed it. It was a Japanese guy, but like their American counterpart that was kind of translating for them. He was grinning ear to ear, was real excited to give them the experience of getting to talk to an American police officer. It was a very positive experience, a positive morning. I was having a good time. And then I drove around a little bit and I had to take a leak. So I drove back to the sub. I was actually sitting in the sub parking lot, parked facing away from the building, and I'd gotten distracted by my phone. I was sitting there thumbing around on my phone when I should have been inside using the restroom. And then a call went out, and I was dispatched along with a mid-watch car from a neighboring precinct on a call about a suspicious person. The caller wanted to remain anonymous, and they said that they had some guy with a hammer trying to break into their car, but they chased him off. The caller wanted to be anonymous, did not want to be seen, just wanted the area checked. So I said, you can clear the other car. I'll take care of that. I'll check and advise is generally what we say. So I was driving down in the area and I see this Hispanic guy pulling a trash can, like a yard waste trash can. And I pull up next to him. I say, "Hey, did you call?" And he goes, "No, I didn't call, but down this alley, there was a dog that tried to attack me." And I was like, "Okay, I was looking for something else." And he really wanted me to go check on this dog. So I told him, and it's on the body camera. I've watched the body camera footage several times over now. I can't show it to you today, but I have seen it. So I'll describe it a little bit. And this is actually on the body camera. I told him, "Hey, you know, I'll head down there and see if I can run that dog off for you." So I turned down the alley. And I don't think I have any pictures I've got a little bit of screen grabs I took from the body camera footage. But I head down the alley, and off to my right-hand side, I see a 6-foot privacy fence that the gate was standing wide open. And I had my window down. I could hear some dogs barking. So I was like, you know what? These are probably the dogs. I walked into like this driveway area, walked around a black Dodge Magnum. And there, I grabbed the fence, and I actually gave a little whistle as I was walking up, because I didn't want to be surprised by a dog that might have been around this car that I didn't know about. So I'm walking up, and you can hear me going, you know, and I know that dogs don't come running, nothing like that. So I leave the cover of the vehicle that I was kind of walking behind. I grab the fence, pull it close. Had a really crappy lock mechanism, which reminded me that I really need to fix the lock mechanism on my personal fence. My fence right now has a spare tire leaned up against it to prevent my dogs from getting out. But I had to really yank on it and lift up on the gate and get it to set into the lock. And that's when the two dogs came up running over. And I said something to them. I'm like, "Hey guys, what are you doing?" And because I'm a dog guy, I've got big dogs. I'm not afraid of dogs. I've responded to thousands of vicious dog complaints over the years. Normally, when someone calls in a vicious dog, they're calling in about a dog that's barking at them. I can tell you that my dogs are large. I have a 70-pound Doberman, and I have a Mastiff mix who's probably 110, 115 pounds. When they get out of the yard, they're very unsure of themselves. And when they see people, they bark at them. They might even like do that thing where they kind of lunge at you and bark because they want you to get away because they're afraid of you. Generally, with those kinds of dogs, if you just walk towards them and talk to them, they're going to turn and run. This has been my experience. So these dogs were inside the fence, and I told him, I was like, "Hey man, some guy down the road said that you tried to bite him. That's not very nice of you." And these dogs were just getting more and more angry, and I could tell that the problem was I was on their fence. So I got the gate latched, and I remember I turned around and I said, "I'll see you later, guys," or stay inside, something like that. I turned to walk away, and I'm walking around that Dodge Magnum, and I was gonna go over to my car. My Cruiser, the driver's side door lock mechanism is broken. So I have to walk around to the passenger side, unlock the door, hit the unlock, walk back over the driver's side, and then get in my Cruiser. As I was walking to go around my Cruiser, the dogs ran into like the man door of the detached garage and had run to the double open doors of the garage. It was like a doors that opened this way on a hinge. It was a crappy wood door. It looked like it was made from an old fence. It was held together in the middle by a chain, and you could tell that the doors were bowed out, and these dogs could squeak through the opening if they wanted to. I was right by my door, about 4 feet from the garage door, when these dogs made it there. I mean, it was a matter of 2-3 seconds. They got to that door and they started sticking their heads through, and I yelled at them. I was like, "Guys, you got to stay inside." And I was talking to them like they were my dogs, and I could tell that they were about to get out, and I didn't want them out. So I went and I tried to push the garage door closed, and honestly, I think that action and my presence being that close to them sent them to an even higher level of motivation that they wanted to get out. They ended up squeaking through. There's a hole about this big on the bottom of the door. They worked their way through that, and then all of a sudden they were on top of me. I've watched the body camera. It was 19 seconds from the first time that I said "ow," because on the body camera I just said "ow." From the first time I said "ow" to the time I fired the second shot, it was 19 seconds. They came through the door and they were on me, and I have a hard time describing what it was like having these dogs on me. I immediately fell to the ground. When I watched the body camera, because you have about a quarter of a second from the time that you realize, oh shit, this door is not going to stay closed. These dogs are about to get out. So I held it with my left arm, and I started drawing my pistol with my right arm. They got on me, and I fell, and I put my left hand out to brace my fall, and you can see my gun out as I fell to the ground. So I had my gun up in the air. That's just an instinctively thing that happens when you're falling and you have your gun in your hand. It's like, get this thing as far away from my body as possible, because you don't want to accidentally shoot yourself or shoot somebody else. So I had my gun up in the air, and then you can't really see much else in the body camera for the next few seconds. I'm kind of rolling around. The dogs, I can show you some pictures here. So I'm going to minimize this guy. I don't know how to do this. The dogs were all over me, and there was just no escaping it. Everywhere I looked, I saw dogs. I've got all the pictures from my cell phone here. I can pull up. I think actually this might have been the first bite that they did, which was right up there next to the boys. And then obviously there's these two guys. This was, the fronts and the back of my leg was equally chewed up. Where I don't think I have one from when it was fresh, but here is the back of my leg when I got home at night. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. That's my hamstring. When I got home from work and looked at it, that's how big it was. I've got a picture from a couple days later. Where is it? Now this one, it has a little bit of butt cheek in it, so don't get too excited. But this picture right here is this spot a couple days later. So when I got home, my hamstring was swelled up. It felt like I had a softball tucked up under my leg. And then 2 days later, the swelling had gone down significantly, but the bruise really started to show up. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the bruise a second ago, and it actually shows up on camera really well. So I'm going to show you guys that right now. You have to forgive me. And this lighting actually makes my legs look amazing. But there is my hamstring. On the other side, that bite right there is not the biggest injury, but it's by far the most painful. But it's nuts to think that in 19 seconds they were able to bite me that many times, including the back of both of my calves, where those are harder to get pictures of. But yeah, so see what I'm looking at here. Both my calves were chewed up, my hamstring, and both of my legs chewed up pretty good. This one right here, they put one stitch in that spot right there just to kind of close me up. The bleeding, this bled quite a bit, and then the one on my other calf, where's that picture? Right here. That actually bled a fair amount for days afterwards. But here, I'm going to minimize this again. So we just have this. So the dogs came out, and I think the first one jumped up and bit me like in the crotch. That's this picture right here. Trying to keep my junk off the screen. That might have been the first bite, or it might have been one of these ones on my lower legs, but for some reason I think it was probably that one. And I went to the ground. These dogs were on me. It was so intense. I have a hard time describing what it felt like. But I tell people it felt like I was drowning. That's the best explanation that I have, where you're just in this situation. It feels like it's an eternity, and there's no escape. Everywhere you turn is that thing that is trying to kill you. I felt like I wasn't breathing when it happened. I wasn't breathing, and the whole world went silent. And it was just me looking around, trying to find a way out of this scenario. I had my gun out. I remember thinking that I pulled the trigger and that the gun didn't go off, and thinking, oh crap, like I've got some kind of weapons malfunction. This is bad. And then I was weighing my decisions in my head. I was thinking about just trying to cover up. I never once did I think about grabbing a hold of one of the dogs. I wasn't kicking at the dogs. For, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds, you're just in a panic. It takes a second to try to figure out what was going on. I remember I was still on my back, laying in the mud, and I remember getting my gun across my body and shooting one of the dogs as it ran by. I actually have a picture of that right here. What they were doing is they were like kind of pouncing at me and then like climbing over me and attacking me. I mean, they've got this is healing up pretty good, but they got my arms. I've got one on my forearm right here. You can't see it in the camera. It's right here. My bicep right here I had a little one on my tricep back here. They were just all over me, and it was like they were running in circles, taking turns attacking me, so I couldn't focus on which one was doing the damage at the time. So this guy here was doing his little circle away from me. I think he had just gotten off of maybe my hamstring, and I was able to roll over and get a shot off at him. And then the other one was running at me, and here's another screen grab that I got from when the other one was running at me. That may have been when this wrist was bit, because this is my gun hand. It went from, if you can see in these pictures, oops, you know, I had just fired the shot at this dog, and this guy was over here, and then I think I fired my shot and I was trying to turn and get a bead on the other guy, and that's when he charged at me here. I mean, it was so fast. It's absolutely insane and really hard to put into words. Here's a better picture of the other guy. A lot of people were asking me what kind of dogs they were, and your guess is as good as mine. The first one definitely was some kind of pit bull. This guy I'm describing as some kind of hound dog. I don't know what he is. I didn't get a good look at him. In the body camera, you can get a better look at him, and he's actually a pretty muscular dog. But I wasn't really paying too close attention, to be honest. Probably some kind of mutt mixed with pit bull. I don't really know. But from here, he was charging at me. I had one hand on the ground. I was trying to get up. I ended up using my vehicle to get up, because my knee, the one that has the big gash in it, I mean, I've got the gash in my knee, and then they also bit my hamstring on that same leg really good. I don't think my leg was working very great at the time. I wasn't aware of it, but as I tried to get up, I wasn't able to get up. So I put a hand on my vehicle and I used the bumper, and I was able to stand up, and that was what was happening here, or maybe a second after this. And then the dog, he snapped at me, and he did another loop. And when he was doing his other loop, I was able to get my gun on him, track him, and I hit him. I think the round went kind of in like the lower rib cage area at a backward angle. So it went through here and came out the hip on the other side. He went to the ground, and then he got up, and he was dragging one of his legs behind him, and was able to get back into the garage and run away. The one that I shot in the chest, that you saw before, he died right there. It was kind of sad, because he sat there panting and looking at me for the next 5 or 10 minutes before he died. And it was almost like he didn't know. Well, obviously he didn't know what was going on, but it is what it is. So that was my dog bite experience. The next thing that happened was, I stood up next to my vehicle and I tried using my walkie. My walkie wasn't working. I'd hit it and you just hear boop, boop, boop. The reason for that is because when I was rolling around in the mud with the dogs, my walkie is on my hip and I don't have it locked, because when it's locked, you can't just quickly change in between channels. And it had gone into some other function. So I had to pull my walkie out and switch it back to the main air. Then when I got on the main air, the dispatcher was talking to somebody else. And I was standing there trying to catch my breath and trying to sound calm, preparing myself to sound calm on the radio. And I was standing kind of behind my cruiser, looking up towards where that other dog went. So I had a little bit of cover. And then finally I had the air and I aired my car number and I said, I located the dogs. They bit me. I shot one. I shot 2 dogs, but I only said I shot one on the air. I don't know why I said that. I think honestly, I was trying really hard not to sound dramatic, and I didn't want all hell to break loose. And I wasn't lying. I did shoot 1 dog. It's just that I also shot another dog. That's why when people read the news articles, they would say, yeah, an officer in this part of town was bitten by a dog and shot and killed 1 dog. That's because they just listen to the scanner. They listen to a scanner and then they write a news article. They don't actually respond to scene. They don't call anybody. They don't get statements from the department. They just write based on what they heard come out over the air. It was never aired that there was 2 dogs down, so the media never reported on that. That's just a little inside baseball for you guys, for when you're reading these articles and you think you know what happened. You don't, because the media doesn't know what happened either. So I remember I got that traffic out over the air, and then I heard a couple people behind me on the next street over talking. So I walked over to talk to them, and I asked if they saw anything. They said they didn't. They just came out when they heard the gunshots. And then I talked to them. They actually told me, they were like, I'm sorry this happened to you, but you did the neighborhood a service. Those 2 dogs have been terrorizing everybody. They get out all the time. They're vicious. They were they're just not big fans of those 2 dogs, to put it mildly. They were very supportive of me. They offered to talk to the lieutenant or whoever came out to investigate. I don't know that anybody ever went to talk to him, but I did pass that information along. I went over and I waited by my cruiser for the next car to arrive. I think it took 4 minutes for the second car to arrive. So I stood there. The longer I stood there, the more the pain started to set in. I remember pulling up my pant leg, seeing the blood running down my leg, thinking, all right, they got me. I still didn't know how bad it was, but I definitely had blood running down the side of my boot. So it wasn't a cool feeling. The first officer that arrived, told him what happened, and then we just waited for more cars and aired for an ambulance. I knew that they were going to have to take me to the hospital. I then opened up the back of my car and I took off my vest, took off my gun belt, my taser, my body camera, set it in the back of the car because I knew that I was going to have to strip down and I didn't want to have to carry all that crap with me. Ambulance arrived. I got on the ambulance. They told me to take off my pants. So I did, and they started trying to clear me up, took me to the hospital. It was funny because one of the last things that my sergeant said to me before I got on the ambulance is like, hey, I've already talked to the lieutenant. He's going to meet you at the hospital. Just so you know, you have to take a piss test. The reason for this, I think it was a city ordinance, because this is part of the round of quote unquote police reforms that these cities are incorporating. And one of the city ordinances is that a police officer, anytime a police officer fires his service weapon, he's required to take a drug test. This is one of those things that when you pass the law, and when it was passed, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, like I have nothing to worry about. I don't use drugs. I'm not going to come to work drunk. I can pass a urinalysis and a breath test, no problem. It doesn't bother me at all. Then when you see how it comes into practice, it's a tremendous pain in the ass. I remember, if you remember the beginning of the story, when this run went out, I went to the sub and I was trying to go use the restroom. When the run went out, I was like, okay, I'll go clear this run real quick. It's gonna take me pretty close to lunchtime. I'll come back to the sub. I'll take a leak. I'll mark on my lunch. I'll sit here and have lunch, and then I'll go back the rest of my day. I didn't get to take a leak. So now I'm sitting in the back of this ambulance. Show you my legs again. I'm sitting in the back of the ambulance like this, and I know that I have to take a leak. I really have to pee. I get my phone out and I text my lieutenant. I was like, hey, I know I have to take a piss test. I'm on the way to this hospital. Can you get there as quick as possible? Because I really have to take a leak. And he's like, I'm on the way. So we get there and I'm laying in the hospital bed, bleeding all over the place. Not bleeding too bad. You can see that a lot of the bleeding has already stopped before I even got to the hospital, but moving around and stuff, there's just blood. There's blood on the sheets, and this one in the back of my leg was starting to bleed, and the one on my calf started to bleed again. And I'm waiting for them to give me this stupid freaking drug screen. They wouldn't do anything. The doctor came in and looked at me. He's like, yeah, you're probably gonna need a stitch there. We'll get you cleaned up and stuff. Once they're done with you, I'll be in. I think I had to wait another hour just so that I could pee. And I had to pee so bad. They ended up giving me one of those hospital urinals that's got the handle on it, and I went into the bathroom, and my plan, and this is generally I think what they want you to do, is put a little bit in the bottle and then just use the toilet. But I was so frustrated and I had to pee so bad that became a challenge to me. I don't know if you guys have picked up on this yet, but I like a challenge, and I like to turn things into challenges. So I wanted to try to fill up the hospital urinal, and I got 900 milliliters of urine into that thing. It's a lot. It was like this much freaking pee in a thing about that big around. I was very proud of myself. So I set that down, washed my hands, went back in. Then I still had to do a breathalyzer. They bring me this breathalyzer machine. They fill out all the paperwork, and they turn it on, and the breathalyzer wasn't working. So then she goes out. She's calling like tech support, all these other places. She calls another hospital. They were about to have a security officer from another hospital drive a breathalyzer all the way to the hospital that I was at, which is a 20-minute drive, just to give me a blood alcohol test. And then once that was complete, the doctor was going to work on me. But then they also came and said, we can do blood, but you have to consent to it. And I was like, fucking take my blood. I'm tired of this. So they poked me. I don't know. This is a scab. I think she poked me right here, right above the bite mark. I can't remember. But they got my blood, and I'm sitting there in my underwear. At the end of my bed, the screen was still open in my hospital bed. I got my lieutenant in there. My commander came to visit. A couple sergeants came. A couple officers came. I'm sitting there in my underwear, and I'm looking at the doctor. He's sitting at a desk on the other side, and he was just sitting there typing away. I'm like, I want to go home. This is getting close to the end of my shift. I had already texted my wife. That was another funny thing, is the moment I got on the medic and I was sitting here just like this, I get a text from my wife, and it says, hey babe, how's work? I was like, well, I told her, I was like, I had to shoot a dog. And then I sent her these pictures, and she took it pretty well. I know that she was upset, and I know that she got emotional, but it was funny. When we talked afterwards, she told me, she's like, man, she's like, I know that you only have a couple pairs of uniform pants that you really like, because the company that we buy our uniform pants with, they change the materials and the way they're cut like every couple of years for some reason. My pants that are like 4 years old are my favorites, but they're getting really, really worn down, and I have to be very careful with them. My newer pants, it's a thicker material, and the way they're cut is different. It's the same size, but the way they're cut is different. They're tighter on my quads. It's not comfortable. And in order to get them comfortable, I have to buy a waist size that is like really, really big on me, and I don't like doing that either. But anyway, so she was like, I know that you were wearing your favorite pants, and I was hoping that they weren't too damaged. That's how you know that your wife is a cop's wife, that she thinks the way you think. And then also, she was worried about my watch, because I just got this new Garmin watch, and it was like it's like a $400 watch. Luckily, the dogs didn't rip that off either. So we had that conversation. I got sidetracked. But anyway, so I'm sitting there on the bed looking at the doctor. I had to get out of my bed, walk over to the doctor and say, hey, they're done with all the drug screening. Can you come in and take care of me now? So then they came in, they took x-rays of my knee because they were concerned that the dog might have nicked a tendon or something right there in my knee, which there was no evidence of that. They also got my elbow, like x-rays, because I've got a deep bite mark there that's actually healed up really well. I think it was, and then maybe this forearm, because there's some tendons here. You guys can't see it very well, but there's some tendons really close to the surface right here. They wanted to check those out. So I got all my x-rays and stuff, and they cleared me. They sewed me up, got me out. This incident happened at 11:23 a.m. I left the hospital at like 5 minutes till 3 p.m. So just under 4 hours from start to finish. It was frustrating, but some of the cool things that happen, it just kind of makes you feel good, is that one of our assistant chiefs sent me a text message. I didn't get a text message from the chief of police, but I got one from one of the assistant chiefs, a guy that I've met before, and he's a good guy. And I responded, thank you, sir. I got one from the safety director that I kind of just blew off because I don't think the safety director cares. It is what it is. Then my commander actually came in. He was off duty. He was at church when he got the call, and he came to the hospital. That was really nice of him to come see me at the hospital. And then of course my phone was blowing up, and then I was getting text messages from people that didn't know it was me. They're like, hey, I heard something on the news that there was an officer in this part of town that got attacked by a dog. Who was it? And I would just reply with like a picture of my legs, and they're like, holy shit, it was you. I was like, yeah, it was me. Then, I had to get driven back to my sub. I got my equipment out of my sergeant's office, carried it out to my truck, and drove home. Crazy thing is, that was about the time when all the pain started to set in. That one on my hamstring that I showed you guys earlier, that thing hurt. That hurt a lot. That was painful. I had to kind of lean in my truck on the drive home and keep all the pressure off of this leg. And then I got home and I changed out of because I had to put my muddy uniform back on. Changed out of that, put on some baggy shorts, and came down and got something to eat, because also this happened before lunch and I was starving. So I ate my oranges out of my lunchbox, made a quick sandwich. And as I was standing there making my sandwich, I kind of just instinctively, I extended my legs, just, making sure that I was good. It just felt good to kind of stretch. And when I stretched my leg and I get that full extension on my leg, it put a lot of pressure on my hamstring. And the pain was so intense, it shot pain all the way through my leg into my quad there, just because I never pass up on an opportunity to show off my legs. So, but you can't see them. So like the injury is right here. When I extended my leg, I felt pain right here, and it felt like I got shot in the quad right here. It was so intense that my eyes watered. I got nauseous, and I had to like lean over the counter. I was in so much pain. But and then everybody's texting me, seeing how I'm doing and stuff, and it's just, this is one of the things that it's like frustrating, and it's not intended to be frustrating, but it is. It's like, I just got hurt. My injuries weren't super duper severe, but it hurt a lot, and it was a fairly traumatic experience, right? I mean, there was a moment when I was laying on the ground with these dogs everywhere around me. I couldn't breathe, and I felt like I was drowning, and I remember thinking, fuck. I was like, I fucked up. I was like, I'm going to die. Just everything runs through your head at that moment. You're like, I'm going to be that dumbass that got fucking attacked by 2 dogs and killed, when I should have just left those dogs alone. I don't think I did anything wrong by approaching those dogs, but those are the things that were literally going through my head as I was on the ground trying to figure out what to do. So I went through all that, and then I get home, I just want to eat a sandwich, and my phone just won't stop. And I felt responsible to reply to all these people because it was very sincere of them to reach out to me. But I just couldn't relax. I finally got to relax in the evening. And then the next day, I had to start making doctor's appointments. And I got a hold of a BWC attorney just to make sure. I never had a major BWC case before. But I've heard of all the horror stories of people not getting properly taken care of. And I know that dog bites, sometimes they can be very simple to cure, to heal up. Sometimes they can be very complicated. The risk of infection is very high, and you can do all the right things. But I mean, I was in a muddy alley covered in dog shit. Those puncture wounds, you know, there could be stuff inside my skin that I can't clean out. You know what I mean? I've heard of people getting an infection like 2 weeks later after it, you know? So the potential for having a very serious injury was still high. And anyway, so I contacted a BWC attorney, and then I had to go fill out paper for them. And then I had to go to their doctor. And then, like the next day I had to go to another doctor and call these people. And it was just, I mean, I was off work for 4 days, and this is actually my regular day off right now that I'm recording this video. But I didn't feel like I was off work at all. Like I didn't get to go to the grocery store and get food for my family. I was just consumed by this process the entire time, and it wasn't the injury that was consuming all of my time. It was all of the other bullshit. I don't know, but the good news, I guess I can say, and I know I'm rambling on and I apologize, but think about this. Think of this as if it's a live stream. You just can't ask questions right now. I'm healing up very, very well. I don't want to, I've shown you some of my injuries already. Even that one on my hamstring back there, everything's healing up really well. I'm scabbed over appropriately. There's nothing underneath. The skin's not warm. There's no indication that I have any infections or any like super severe permanent damage. We'll see how my hamstring feels moving forward. I think one of those dogs jumped up and bit me and then kind of twisted, because that's what dogs do. I think that's why that one hurts so bad. And then the one on the back of my calf, pull that one up. It looks pretty gnarly. I mean, it kind of is gnarly. Oh, that's not a good picture. It's really hard to take good pictures of the back of your calf. But like this one, I think what happened with that particular one is the dog chomped down on my calf, and I twisted my leg to get out, and that's why you've got this like long gash. That was actually pretty deep. It's still fairly painful, but it's nicely scabbed over. I don't know. I'm in pretty good shape. I feel pretty good. I can get around. The one on the inside of my thigh right here, that did swell up a little bit. So I just have to, I've got like compression shorts that I wear for the gym, like Under Armour underwear. I just make sure that I've got the longer ones on, because they extend down, so they cover that up, so it doesn't rub on anything when I'm walking, and that's fine. That's not a huge problem. I'm just keeping like ace wraps around my my calves, because I can't keep bandages on those particular parts, and those cuts are a little bit too big. But everything's healing up really well. Went to the doctor yesterday, got looked at. He's very happy with everything. He says that the stitch that I have, did I upload a picture of my stitch? I did not, but I just have one stitch right there in my knee. I was going to take it out on Sunday, because that would be 1 week after the incident happened. He said, give it a few more days after that. He said, just give it till like Wednesday. And he gave me permission to pull out the stitch on my own, which was kind of nice. Doctors sometimes are weird about that stuff. They don't want you doing things. But he said, you've been around, you've been in the military. He's like, you probably know how to take a stitch out, which I said that I do. So I'm going to take my stitch out on my own, just keep everything covered up, and I can go back to work. So that was the initial concern, is that I couldn't go back to work with a stitch. But he said No, you can go back to work with the stitch, so it's not a big deal. So I'm going back to work. I think I've told you guys everything that I know about this incident. And this is the story that I've been telling everybody when I run into them. So maybe by making this video, I won't have to tell the story anymore, or not so often. But I am about to go to the store. I'm going to go to the supplement store because I'm out of protein. And Vince at the supplement store, he and I always talk, so I'm going to have to tell him the story as well. I'll tell him the short version. But regardless, I'm doing very well. I'm very comfortable, I'm very happy. I'm healing up well. I'm excited I get to go back to work. It's one of those things that I love my job. I hate going to work, but when you're forced to stay away, you kind of realize how much you miss it. So I'm looking forward to getting back to work and getting back to normal. Yeah. So I think that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later.